All right. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. We are getting started with another story. I love my story time. I love my story time. But right now I'm in this special series, Life After Divorce, Turning Pain into Power. For those who know, I am the visionary of the anthology book, Life After Divorce, Turning Pain into Power. I have several contributing authors, and they have been able to join me in this journey of just telling our story that life is not over once we hit that divorce. Because a lot of times you feel like quitting, you feel like giving up, and it's like, don't even think about it. Your life, most of the time, is just beginning. It is just beginning. And so today I have none other than Miss Doris. I'm going to read her bio in a second. But what I want to do is give it a few minutes for us to be able to share this post, share it on your Facebook, whether you got a private page, public page, share it in groups, anywhere that you feel like it is going to be beneficial for someone else to be able to hear the story. So we'll give it a few minutes and then we're going to come back together to just be able to let Miss Doris have this stage. Okay? All right, so let's give it a few seconds. I'm like a grandma over here, on social media.
That's all right. Look. It takes a little while, but you get it eventually.
Listen. I never thought I would be the one on the other side of that. Um, Give her some time to get herself together because of that age that kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
But
Look,
we
the
here,
learning
we
is so
over
different.
40.
That's
That's
all right. We're just more thorough. That's all that means.
love
We're a
it.
little more thorough and thoughtful.
But we're good for our age. So
we,
you can't
we
be
we do.
potato
Absolutely.
that we at that place. So on the real.
We are there. We're just talking about that over 40. So you're not there yet, but that 40 thing,
Girl,
life is very
I'm
different.
40. What are you talking about? I am 40.
Are you 40 already? Wow.
Yes,
I can't tell.
yes. I'm
I can't
40.
tell.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll be 41 this year.
Wow. Okay. All
Yep.
right.
I done caught up with y'all. Like,
Yes, I forgot. Yeah, we're like a year apart. I keep forgetting we're not that far apart in age.
yep.
You look so young, but yeah, I like it at 40. 40 is a whole different ballgame.
There. But that's a good thing because, I got a divorce when, oh my God, it's been like 3 years ago. I
Mm,
was in my 30s getting a divorce. And for some reason, when we hit or we go through life trials and tribulations and we got to start over, look, it's good to start from the inside out, but for some
mhm.
reasons, you got to start from the outside in.
You do?
And so you see a lot of people really just trying to get their lives together. So they lose weight, they cut their hair. In my case, you see I lock my hair, but I
Which
knew
is
I needed
beautiful.
to do something different.
Right.
Do something different for that transformation that was to come and that is here right now. So
Hmm.
let's get into this combo. Okay,
Oh
so
boy.
ready, Miss Doris?
I'm ready.
All right, so I want to read Doris's bio because I want you all to know who Doris is. As you see, she's so gorgeous, so beautiful.
Thank
Um,
you. You as well, darling. I appreciate you.
Doris Taylor is currently working in higher education and marketing. She leads the development of strategic marketing communication initiatives to promote student success. Primarily a writer throughout most of her 20-year career in media, her background includes positions in public relations, radio, web development, newspaper, and a long stint in local television at WTKR. Look, we have a whole celebrity up here today.
Not even. I'm a background girl.
So the Norfolk native also tried her hand at business ownership for several years by parlaying her penchant for building websites into an enterprise name. Is it DIA or DIA? How do you do it?
Dia was it.
Your designs, serving clients in several industries, including law firms, nonprofit organizations, medical practices, and entrepreneurs. She helped with branding, building websites, and developing social media and marketing strategies. She is currently enrolled in a master's program for public relations at Norfolk State University with anticipated completion in 2023. She holds a BA in English from Old Dominion University, where she also studied journalism and communications. So I'm gonna make sure I don't use my Norfolk dialect.
Please do. Look, I'm off the clock. Look,
All
we're
right,
start.
that's
We're
I'm
going
judging
off the
because
clock. It's all bets are off
that Norfolk dialect comes out really quick, and
all
people
day.
are like, "You're from Norfolk, ain't you?"
I am, yes, Norfolk, born and raised,
Yeah,
and
I'm from
you'll
Norfolk.
hear it in my voice. You'll hear it.
Ain't had it at all, and I have no idea how we sound.
Oh, we Southern. It depends on where you go.
So you know the difference between the Norfolk dialect and everybody else.
If I'm somewhere, not at home, oh, I can hear it. And I can hear the difference in cities. I can tell Portsmouth people, I can tell Virginia Beach. We all can. So our dialects are very different,
Right.
very different.
All right. So you're here not to judge me on my communication skills.
No.
But I love the fact that you're into media, you are a PR, public relations person. So you're all about getting the story right, being able to share the
Absolutely.
story of others. How does it feel to be on the other side to be able to tell your own story?
It's very different because like I said, I'm a background person. I promote everybody else, and it took me a while to actually want to talk about my story. I shared a little bit online, because I feel like I want to share
Mhm.
pictures of the marriage itself. I might as well share everything. It was a journey, and it took me a while to when I had to get the story together first and how I wanted to present it so that it's respectful of my ex-husband. I never want to, cast any bad light on anyone. I just want to learn lessons and move forward.
Yeah.
And also so that I need to figure it out what the story was, because when you're in it, it's very different perspective.
That's really true. And you really hit something. I actually seen a meme or a post not too long ago when somebody said, I feel cheated when people always want to tell the beautiful side of what marriage looks like, relationships. We were there with you when y'all were dating. We were there with the engagement, with the marriage, with the children. And then the divorce happens and we don't hear from them. They hide
Hmm.
from social media. They don't want to tell the story. So do you feel like more people should be more open about the good and bad when it comes to relationships and marriages?
Well, it depends. Even working in journalism, there will be some people who are just ready to, and those folks, they're ready to jump on camera. They
Mhm.
grab the mic from you and they want to talk. Some people are more camera shy, and same thing in life. Some people are, they do better writing. Some people are better talking to their friends. Some people are better talking in support groups or circles. But my thing is, just tell your story to somebody. If it's to the pen and paper, that's fine. If it's just to God, if it's to your mom, your sister, tell somebody. It doesn't have to be this big open forum. As long as you get it out and you learn from it, that's what matters.
Right, right. And then you have the other people who say it's none of your business.
Right, right. Some people are
Like
just
it's none of your
private. Yeah, yeah. It's a process.
business. I think when it comes, sorry, I think when it comes to me, I am as transparent as can be, and so I don't know when exactly my transparency started when it came to relationships. Because of course, before the divorce, I was engaged to be married, and that ended with domestic violence. So that's
Mhm.
when talking about healthy relationships began. But my transparency began back then, 2014, 2015, ready to come out and tell my story.
Mhm.
What do you feel really pushes you right now or encourages you to say, this is the time, this is the place for me to tell my story?
Well, when I was going through the transition, like right during the separation, and then shortly after the divorce itself, I did participate. This is just for my own healing in support groups, and when I was in these groups, and some of them I still hop in and out of, I didn't realize there were so many men and women. It wasn't just one gender or the other that were going through a
Yeah.
similar experience that as I was. So it was a little bit, of course, no one wants to admit that they, failed at something or something didn't turn out the way you planned. I know I have that perfectionist thing, sadly, but it was comforting to hear. And then what happened was I started sharing my story just in those groups.
Mhm.
And then people would message me like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy you told my story." People were just started to DM me and ask me questions, and I was kind of counseling people on the low without, I just give them my phone number and they would call me and they would talk to me about things. And I didn't realize the stories were very similar, what
Right.
they experienced as well. And I felt, okay, I wasn't totally by myself in that struggle. And I also felt like, God put me through that or let me go through that so that I could learn and I could help other people as well.
Cool. Yeah. So the similarities, letting people know that you are not alone. I think that's the most important thing when
Hmm.
being able to be honest about what we go through is not to just say, yeah, I'm just telling all my business, but someone needs to hear your story. So let's
Hmm.
go into the love part of your story first. So how did you fall in love? How did you meet this person?
Well, we actually met. He was here for a little while. He was my ex-husband. He studied in London. He came here to find a job and be with his family as well. And I was doing what I do best. I was shopping. I was out shopping somewhere. We bumped into each other, had a conversation, and then we just kind of, traded numbers and we started dating.
Mhm.
From then, he's very handsome, very charming, obviously, very charming, and he was very different. He was educated me in a lot of things. He was half Jordanian and half Nigerian. He studied in London, very well traveled, very smart. He worked in the healthcare field. And so he just is really well rounded, very smart individual. And I was on I don't want to date anybody. I was just kind of on vacation at the time. And I just, okay, well, he'll just be somebody to talk to. And before I knew it, that's history.
So what was
It
going
never
on
was my
that you were at
intention.
this? You don't want to date anybody stage. Was this after a breakup, or you were just on, focus on career, focus? What was going on?
Well, it was kind of a little bit of both. What happened was I'm a late bloomer. I didn't really even start dating until I was maybe 21,
Okay.
2021, because I was very in high school. You know me, I was real quiet. I didn't talk a lot. You know me, I didn't talk a lot in school. And
Mhm.
then I was laser focused on my studies and I started dating and then things kept getting in the way. So once I graduated, I realized, I need to focus. And while I was working at TKR, my schedule was screwed up. I worked from 3 to midnight. And then I had a part-time job. I was working for the Journal of Guide too from 9 to 12. So I didn't have time. And during that 5 year period I was there, I didn't have time for boyfriends or dating. So for 5 years, it
Mhm.
was just me because I was just at work most of the time or sleep or trying to catch naps somewhere. I was tired. So it wasn't that. I was
Comfortable.
tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was
Being
hustling.
by yourself.
And so it's like just, I'm not gonna drag some poor guy through and I was running a business at the same time. So I was like, I don't even have time to even stop. So I was laser focused on that. And then after that 5 year stint, I said, okay, Doris, you're getting a little older. You gotta get out there at some point. And
Yeah.
that's when right after that I had just, like I said, I was just coming off of that 5 year hiatus. And I just decided, ran into a couple of toads, on the way, a couple of toads. And I got frustrated really quickly. I said, okay, I'm gonna go back in my little hole. And then he popped up, and again, he was very cool and, charming and humorous. It's the
Right.
humor that got me. It was the jokes. It's the humor.
So the humor, he was smart. He
Very
was,
smart. Hmm.
I'm sure, different as far as the culture goes. So it's a lot about this man that you don't know much about, but that makes it even more interesting, right?
And he was persistent. I told him, look, I don't want anything serious. And as the minute I said that, it was like game on. He was calling me all day, text me all day. Like, he was very charming and very, very persistent. So of course, I never planned to get married.
Okay.
Marriage was
How
never
long
something
did
I
you date
actually
before
wanted.
you got engaged?
I'm sorry,
How long did you two date before you got engaged?
about a year.
Okay, so you date. He's How was the relationship? Like, any red flags that you feel like you pick up now that you might have ignored in the beginning?
Oh yeah, I saw them very early on. We lived together for during that year. We started getting to know each other, and I picked up on a couple of things. There were some. He was a couple years younger, about 4 years younger, and he was still in this limbo phase, trying to figure himself out.
Mhm.
Two, we had a couple, obviously, arguments trying to understand each other. I figured this is just growing pains, and we broke up once in that year period. And
Mhm.
I stuck around. beyond this stuff. That I figured, okay, maybe we could get through these things, and once we get married,
Mhm.
he'll be a little more serious. I think he was just going through a lot of trying to figure himself out. But I decided, we loved each other. We're here. We're working. Was that, I'm going to work with him on those things, because I was still doing, building myself at that time too. Still am building myself. So we'll work through it together. And we just decided to just, get married anyway.
So you were actually looking at the potential of what he
Yep.
could be.
Yes.
Now at our age, we say no, no, no. We
Never again.
no longer look at potential, but we look at what's in front of us.
Correct.
We look at what's
Correct.
offered to us. And it's not saying that you don't help your significant other get ahead, because that's what helpmates are all about. That's what
Right.
partners are all about, significant others, to build each other up.
Correct.
Sometimes when you're so deep in love, that potential is you actually see more potential than you see what the reality.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
can want more for that person than they want for themselves, which actually screws us.
Woo. You said the words. Absolutely. That was where the thing started going down. It was that. Mm-hmm.
So tell us, all right, so you date, you move in with each other. And before I move to this next question, how would you advise, like, say some young women are watching this live right now, would you recommend that a man and woman live together to see those red flags, or do you discourage living together prior to marriage?
Honestly, I know biblically you're not supposed to,
Mhm.
but I think if we hadn't, I wouldn't have seen them that early. Now, mind you, God was giving me signs really early, and I was ignoring them because I was all in love. There you go. So I saw them, but I don't think that they would have come out as vividly as they did if we hadn't lived together first.
Yeah, yeah. For our viewers, if you are here, whether you're watching the recording or not, what do you think? Live like premarital living together. Are you for it? Are you against it? I want to know what the audience has to say, because I'm the same way. My mom was against it. As far as living together, what we call it, shacking up.
Jack it up.
We ain't supposed to shack up. That's against the word of God. But I also know when it came to my engagement and calling off the wedding 2 weeks prior to the date, I would have never seen the signs of this man if we had not lived together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was consequences because I was going against the word of God. And,
Mm,
and I do believe that God punishes. A lot of people don't believe that God punishes, but I do believe that God treats us as his children the same
he
way
does.
that our parents provide consequences when we are disobedient. I do believe that God provides consequences for our disobedience.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it was consequences for me for my disobedience, because I knew better, right?
Same. We all know better.
Knew better. But I don't know. I know for a fact if we would have not lived together, I would have missed all of the abuse that came out after
Mm.
that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm on a limbo with that one. So let's move.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's move on. So you date, you live in, and that's kind of fast paced.
Yeah, it was kind of
Live
fast.
together within a year, get engaged, get married. So now you have entered into the marriage stage. Were your family members supportive of your marriage at all? The fact that you were moving kind of fast?
No, no, they were not initially. They weren't supportive of the move in either, but they understood, well, you're grown now. I was in my 30s. So they were like, well, okay.
That rose and
We
everything. I'm grown. I
I'm
know.
grown and everything. My dad was still coming by the house, peeping and making sure he was he was doing right. Daddy was still in the picture always, but so yeah, I mean they didn't approve obviously because I'm the baby in the family, so they're gonna be that's just how they are and they're protective. But then they got to know him, and they because they were supporting me, of course they were supportive of him, and they were they came around eventually.
Okay, so they came around. So how was marriage? Like, was it everything that you thought marriage was supposed to be?
I think I'm a little different because I never wanted to get married at all. It was never something I don't know. I had a completely different view of marriage growing up,
And you're from
so marriage was never something I
a household,
wanted.
correct, Doris?
Hmm?
You're from a two-parent household?
Yeah, my parents have been together now probably 53 years.
Okay. So let's stay
Long
right there for
time.
a second, because I really do believe a lot of the decisions that we make in life is from our childhood. Whether we are coming from a healthy childhood, whether we have childhood trauma, um, we date men most of the time, or date women based on the women who are in our lives or the men who are in our lives. What was it that told you, I do not want to get married? What was it? What was it?
It's my personality. I am now my parents are very traditional. My dad's the, go-getter, provider, macho, protect everybody. He's completely that guy. Great dad. And my mom is the traditional cook, clean, stay home, take care of the kids. And I'm kind of the rebellious one.
I
I'm
would
the rebellious.
have,
Huh?
I would have never guessed that at
Oh
all.
yeah, I'm completely not the traditional in any kind of way. I like being independent. I like being free. That's kind of the thing. So I guess I saw marriage for me as kind of this whole situation to put me, I don't really like cooking that much. I can do it, but it's not my favorite thing to do. I kind of like being by myself a lot because I work a lot and I'm kind of more that go when I want to go kind of person. I'm very much a free spirit in that way. So I saw marriage as a lockdown situation. Like, can I really tie myself to a person, me being me?
Mhm.
Very spontaneous. If I want to get up and go, I just want to go. So I saw it as I have to be tied to someone. I have to check in with somebody. And I think that was the attractive thing with my ex-husband. He was also free in that way too.
Mhm.
He wasn't that, where you going? How come you want to do this? He let me kind of do what I want to do most of the time, but not in a bad way.
So
But
it worked for you too.
it worked for us in that way, where he just like, okay, you want to go over there? That's fine. No, have fun. Bye.
Okay. And no children between the two of you.
No children. No,
Okay. Okay. So was that an agreement between you two prior to marriage, or?
no, no. We want as far as children.
Mhm.
No, we wanted to. It was just,
Okay. You never got to it.
yeah. Well, we tried. It's just physical issues wouldn't allow us to do that.
Okay. Okay. Do you feel like that might have caused any turmoil in your relationship, the struggle with fertility?
Yeah, it did. It was stressful. Yeah, it did cause a little bit. Um, but it wasn't the main thing though. It wasn't. Mhm.
All right. So tell me, you're married. When did you start seeing the change where you're now questioning, did you make the right decision of getting married?
Well, I saw it before we got married. I just was lulled into thinking that it would change once we got married. You have this magical thinking. Women, I don't know why we do that. We're magical. We have this thinking of, well, once I sign that paper and I have the ring on my finger, that somehow he's going to transform into this new person. Nope. He just did exactly what he was doing before.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
mhm.
How old were you when you got married, Doris?
I was 35, 34,
Okay.
35.
Which is
Mhm.
really a mature age, making the right decisions. Like you weren't young and in love when you were young to 35, but like young and in
Right.
love, 23
Yeah.
years old, getting
Mhm.
married, 35. What was it that made you ignore the red flags?
Well, you know, it's that again, that magical thinking, you know what, if I just love him enough, he'll
Hmm.
change. And then he was also what he was telling me. Every time I was, no, I'm done here, I'm out. No, give me a chance. He'd beg his way back. No, let me, just give me a chance. I'm trying to learn how to do this. And we both were learning. That's what I'm a late bloomer. So I didn't have that many experiences
Yeah.
prior to him, because I had been on a hiatus for such a long time working, and
Hmm.
I spent most of my time by myself. So, I was learning too. And there were some things I didn't know how to do either, or I said, well, okay, you know what? I can't get mad at him for not knowing to do things that I don't know to do myself. This is new for me too. So I was willing to learn and let him learn. I felt like it was unfair for me. I wasn't perfect either. So,
Hmm.
mhm.
That's really good information, because I think, especially in relationships, and I'm guilty of it myself. Like, we expect that other person to have it all together.
Mhm.
And then when you really take the time for self-reflection and you see the areas that you're struggling in, your weaknesses, it helps us to extend grace to your partner, understanding that nobody is perfect. And I think that mentality can be a strength and a weakness for us. Because, yeah, we understand that no one's perfect, but then we start making excuses of why they aren't doing what they're supposed to do.
Correct.
And you tell
Correct.
your family, you tell your friends, well, nobody's perfect. I do this, I do that. And you're giving excuses of why things aren't, why the respect isn't there, why
Hmm.
infidelity is there, why the lies and the deception is there, because we want to excuse people for the lack of perfection. Yeah, but none of us are perfect.
None. I'm
What
far from it.
were the red flags that you were seeing?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What were your red flags that, or what was the behaviors that you felt like you could not tolerate?
Yeah, a lot of it had to do with the language, some of the ways that we talk to each other, some of his views about women. And I know, and now I excuse it as a cultural difference
I was
too.
gonna
Like,
ask you
okay, where it's cultural and maybe they believe this, but it was just him. Apparently, it was just him. Also, the way that I heard him talk about other women in his life too was very telling.
that.
And, we always like want to believe that we're the exception. He
Mm-hmm.
told me honestly what he'd done to women prior to me. And I thought, oh, that won't happen to me.
Prior to marriage, he was telling you.
Yeah.
Oh my,
Yep.
wow.
Hmm. He told me, and also what his friends were, also, how they thought about women and things that they were doing as well. And I'm, again, completely oblivious
Mm-hmm.
or, ignoring it and like, well, no, he wouldn't do that. And he was, well, I'm grown now. That was when
Mm-hmm.
I was younger and I would never do those immature or say those kinds of things. And no.
Yeah. We can learn a lot about our partners from the circle that
Mm,
the friends
mm,
they hang with. Like, if
ooh,
you, I can only speak
mhm,
from my experience, but if
mhm.
you're dating somebody and everybody in their circle are cheaters, yeah,
Yeah.
most likely because they're gonna lie for each other, they're gonna take up for each other.
Oh,
But
yeah.
why are they willing to take up for that person? It's because most likely they got something on each other.
There's a network normally. There's a network of
A
them.
network, and you know,
Mhm,
watch the flock that you associate yourself with.
mhm, mhm.
If you are nothing like your friends, then you need to reconsider finding new friends. And I'm just being honest because,
Yeah.
yeah, you're known for the company that you keep.
Mhm. Absolutely. Us too. And I had to do some snipping myself
Right,
in order
right.
to heal. Once I got out of that situation, it takes the blinders off
Oh
and
yeah.
you see everything and
Yeah.
everybody.
So how long did it take for you to say, you know what, I'm walking, I'm getting my
Um,
divorce? How long?
it 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 took a while. Honestly, it took me 2 years to decide
Mm-hmm.
that I really wanted to leave. I had things just kept getting progressively worse, and one day I just, I hit a wall. One of my friends and we both, I'm leaving, but no, I'm leaving, and then we'd still end up staying. And then, funny, I had a story, a talk with a friend of mine at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and she said something that completely terrified me.
Yeah, you
it,
breaking up
it's,
a little bit.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. There you go.
Okay, so I'm sorry, it might have been my internet connection, Cox cable. I said a friend of mine said something to me that terrified me. It was, a normal conversation. I confide in her about what was happening, what was going on.
Mhm.
And she said, Doris, he's never going to leave.
Mm, mm.
And I thought about we were already at 5 years. And I said, what does the next 5 years look like this? No way. I had to make a decision on, am I going to stay and hinder us both? Or I had to be the one to make the move. Yeah.
Yes, I will. So you
Hmm.
actually hit 5 years of marriage before divorcing.
Yep. Hmm.
And that's actually, I think that's around when it comes to statistics, when it comes to successful marriages, it's usually that 5 year mark when people are like, whether they're going to stay or whether they're going to go.
Hmm.
Divorces are at its highest rate when it gets to the 5 year mark because you can pretty much tell if your partner is going to change or not. With me, I gave it 12 years and I kept
Ooh,
in
a
wanting
long
it.
time.
it's a long time, especially when it comes to Christians. We
Mm-hmm.
want to pray for our spouses, pray for change, believe that God can heal, believe that God can deliver, but remembering that God gives us choices. So as much
Right.
as we want to pray for our partners, your partner got to want it just as much.
That's right. Absolutely. It does absolutely take two people. And if you got
People.
one person doing all the heavy lifting, the other person just kind of riding along, it's
Yeah.
somebody's gonna break. Hmm.
Yeah. So tell us, how's your relationship now? You get the divorce. Are you two? And I know you don't have any children together. So what does that look like between you two? Do you just act like you don't exist, or like what does the relationship look like?
There is none. Yeah, we officially divorced about a year ago.
Okay.
No contact at all.
Okay.
Hmm.
Wow.
2 years I haven't had no contact
2
whatsoever.
years. Wow. He hasn't reached back. No apologies. No. I took some time to think about what happened. You just.
Uh, he, yeah, he tried. I wasn't interested. Yeah, I was completely done. Mhm.
Good for you, because a lot of times we just keep going back to the same old mess over and over again.
Yeah, and that was a problem. I did that. When we initially separated, we kept going back and forth. We were sneaking around and hiding it because we didn't want to tell
Really?
our families we were still seeing each other, obviously. And then it just got to the point where I realized I wasn't healing and
Mm,
was just constantly bringing me back down, and I couldn't move forward if he was still around. And he still never planned to leave. But I said, you know what? In order for me to heal and him too, I needed to snip that connection. He was never going to do.
so tell us about that slip and slide, because we don't talk about slip and slide. How did the slip and slide happen with you two? Like, who initiated it?
It mostly him, mostly him. I was still trying to slide out of off stage left, but he still wanted to. He moved a couple hours away, so he still
Okay.
wanted to kind of basically have his cake and eat it too. He still wanted to be here when he wanted to be here, and he wanted to be away when he wanted to be away. Yeah, he even still wanted us to continue some sort of connection even while we were broken up. And I
Just
said,
want that intimacy.
yeah, yeah, no way. So I said, and
Bro.
then I noticed whenever I'd start saying no or I wasn't readily available, he'd get angry, obviously, because there was still this I guess this sense of ownership or whatever, because we were still legally married at that point. But I was like, well, no, we're broken up. We need to be broken up. We can't learn how to, at least be cordial with each other or friends without there being some sort of, marital connection, then there's no need of us even
Right.
having a connection at all. No. Mm-mm.
Right. I think, when you talk about that, the best of both worlds, like, think
Mm-hmm.
about it, who wouldn't want, okay, my marriage didn't work, but we get in a divorce, but I can still go home when I want to, and then go right back out and do whatever I want to do.
Yeah,
So you really
exactly.
got to think about those things. How does it impact you as a person? And yeah, we say we're grown. I get to make the decisions that I want to make, but how does it affect your heart? How does it affect, like you said, your healing process? Because it leaves us feeling stuck.
Right.
We
Exactly.
can't move forward when we are constantly slipping and sliding to old behaviors, old
Yeah.
patterns, and old people.
Right. And that was the point. Honestly, he didn't want me to move forward. I couldn't, move on. It was the questioning, then it was more, I got more questions when he was gone than when he was here in the house with me. So where are you going? And even I'm sitting right at the house. I'm like, you know what? I'm not married anymore. Again, I'm a free spirit. I don't like that anyway. So no, I just wanted my free life back. No.
So how did you end it for good? Did you just call him one day and say that's it, or
No, I
like
just
ghost
stopped
him?
answering the phone. We had one last conversation. I just decided it was cordial. I didn't say anything. I just let it go. I said, I don't have to explain anything. We're done here. And I just stopped answering the phone.
You are so strong. A lot of people cannot do that. I promise you, a lot of people cannot do that.
It was
Um,
hard. It wasn't a cakewalk. It was very painful to do, but I understood that, I'd already gone through the pain of the breakup and I'd already dealt with the separation. Like I
uh-huh.
said, I had a great support group, both my family, my friend. I have some amazing, amazing friends. I talk to God a lot.
Right.
I've read a lot of books. I journaled. I went to therapy. Like I did a little bit everything: chewing gum, walking backwards, anything. Just don't answer that phone. It was hard, and I used to count down and celebrate the days. Okay, 2 weeks in. Okay, 30 days in. Okay, so it
Mhm.
was like a challenge, and then I give myself little celebrations or treats, or treat myself to dinner whenever I get to 6 months or 8 months or then the year. And now it's almost, well, actually next week it'll be next week will be my 2 year no
Okay.
contact. Hmm.
Good. Okay. So tell us, what are you doing now? How have you turned your pain into power?
Oh my goodness, what am I not doing? Well, I was already in school, well, right at the tail end of our marriage, so I was still continuing that.
Mhm.
I dove into my career again, and I just started really getting closer to God,
Mhm.
getting closer to my really, really good friends. During marriage, sometimes if you're going through things, you lose touch with the people you love most. And so I really made it a point to really show people how much I love them.
Mhm.
I think I had spent so much time in my marriage, I neglected a lot of my friendships. So I went back to those friendships, and they have been the most healing, beautiful experiences ever. So they have been my support group. Like I said, my family. I have a little baby niece who's
Oh,
about to graduate from ODU. So we're, cheering her on and just spending time with my family. And that's really what, working a lot and just really enjoying my alone time. I really, you know, uh going out by myself, figuring out what I like, outside of being married. That was an adjustment. And really I just love, like I said, the people around me and myself more.
mhm. Good. I love it. I love it. To be able to continue to elevate in life and not to allow what I call baggages to weigh you down, the baggage, the emotional baggage, or
Hmm.
the financial baggage, the mental baggage that comes along with divorce. Like there's so many different factors that one has to even consider to even
Absolutely.
decide, do I leave my spouse, whether it's a husband or a wife?
Yeah.
Because it's not just about, oh, I don't want to be with you no more, so I leave. So you have to think about, okay, did we buy this house together?
Hmm.
Finances? Do we have bank accounts together? Do we have children together? What are my family members going to think? It is not as easy as people think it is. Like even with my first book, Because He Loves Me, Reasons Why She Stayed. It does include different reasons why people get a divorce and what takes them so long. Like
Hmm.
so long. What took
Right.
you so long to leave? I had a lot of factors I needed to consider.
Absolutely. It's a process. And one of the things that I discovered, I mean, I tell you, I learned relationships are mirrors.
Uh,
And you think that you are, with all the ugly that you see in that person, is
mhm.
really a little bit of you. I had to be real with myself, and that's why the therapy helped a lot.
Mhm.
Like we met each other's, people say you meet your representatives, you meet the best of each other, and that's how you who you fall for. But then when you live together and you go through stuff, what happens is that cute, charming, funny version of yourselves fall away, and you meet each other's childhood traumas. And when those two characters clash, it's kaboom. And unless both of you or one of you are willing to be honest about what the baggage, and I don't care who you are, you bring baggage to any relationship, friendship,
Yeah,
work, especially work, work. You bring your baggage, your emotional deficiencies into a relationship,
right.
friendships too, expecting to be healed by just being in them. Now you have to do the work. You got to cry it out, go through it, be honest with yourself. But if you're not that, and if only one of you is willing to do that, you
Mhm.
will. And that's what I noticed when I started healing. We started becoming more incompatible because I was willing to do the work and he just didn't want to. So, in order for me to heal, and then he started being resentful of that because he noticed I started pulling away because I started pouring more into myself and trying to heal and trying to be better for both of us, but he just didn't. This wasn't his time. I
Yeah,
hope he's gotten to that now, but yeah, he
like
was
like we
ready.
said in the beginning, it takes two people. It takes
Yeah.
that. Look, when I do this series, this is not to encourage divorces. It's not to say, oh, it's better on the other side of marriage to be divorced. No, It literally takes both people. Marriages can be healed. I,
Mm-hmm.
I am a firm believer that God can heal marriages, that God can transform, whether it's the husband, the wife, whoever it is in that relationship. But both people, they have to want it. They have to desire it, and they gotta put in the work for
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. And it is work.
It's
And
work.
you don't just leave the person. That was another really odd realization. You
Right.
don't just leave them, you
Right.
leave a version of yourself
Hmm.
behind too, because I can tell you, even in the 2 or 3 years and all that happened, I am a completely different mindset. It's the age too. I'm 40. So I think very differently. I
Hmm.
see things very differently. Everything about me, uh, mostly changed. My mindset changed about just relationships and love and all that. It was completely different now. I don't even know. Sometimes like the way that I look at things and think about things now is I'm a little more relaxed when
Right.
it comes to things. I'm a little more uh, I say strategic, a little more careful, but not
Hmm.
to the point where I'm closed off to people or anything. And I said one thing I learned to do more than anything is to listen to and trust God, because I left that. I trusted myself, which I do that now. But
Yeah.
I tell people I have a hierarchy now when it comes to myself and it comes to other people. You have to. The first thing is if you meet someone and who does not have a moral high ground, or if they don't love God,
Hmm.
all bets are off. They don't have a foundation of love. They don't know the definition, the actual definition, not the commercialized love story, romance novel version of it, the actual biblical version of love, or whatever God you pray to. There has to be a moral high ground. And same with me. I needed to strengthen my relationship with God, because that's where I lost touch right there. And then once I had the source, then it was loving myself. So anyone I meet has to have those same two things in place, that moral high ground and a deep love for themselves. Because if a person comes into, and I say this for any, even friendships I've had where a person didn't adequately love themselves,
Hmm.
it really made it very difficult. Those people a lot of times can't receive love when they don't know what it is, they don't understand it, they don't know how to get it from their source. They're looking for it in all different kinds of forms and ways that may not be look like that, but that's
Yeah.
not the truth. And the people don't know how to receive it, it's a waste of your time sometimes trying to give it to them in ways that they can't appreciate it.
Right. One of the words you kind of like changed your mind with it, but you were saying strategic. I think it's so important that yeah, we do get a little strategic when it comes to how to be in a relationship and moving forward, because marriage is a business. It's a business. And
Yes, it
then
is.
when you think about marriage being a business, guess what? You got to have meetings. Family meeting. You gotta have meetings. You have to come up with maybe even a 5-year strategic plan.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. Hmm.
There's so many things that you need to have a successful marriage, because when two are coming together and remembering, like you said, we're coming together with different childhood traumas, different morals, different values, and as much as we look like we were the same person while we were dating, we began to morph apart.
Yep. Yes,
So
absolutely.
individually, we become two. They get to see the ugly side of us, and then they
Yes, ma'am.
all these you dealing with four people. You dealing with like
That's the
four
truth.
people
It's
in
true.
a
Yep.
relationship, not just two
Mhm.
people. So
4.
4 people, because I got multiple assassins.
Absolutely, because you do morph and change when you're going through, or life changes you, and sometimes you just really grow incompatible. Sometimes that happens
Yes.
too.
And
Mhm.
the growing up part, when
Yeah.
we grow, sometimes we become a lateral. Like we're not even on the same stage no more. Like we were here when we first got together, but
Yep.
now we decided. And
Over here.
so, yeah.
And that's kind of what happened to me. I
Hmm.
realized that I was like, I thought about my life and what I wanted to do 5 years from now. And then I just honestly couldn't see him going with me. I knew he didn't want to go and he couldn't. So I just released him.
That's a hard cookie to swallow.
It was. It
I want
was.
you to go with me, but I know you can't.
I
And
knew
then
you
when
couldn't
you
go.
love somebody, all you want is the best for that person.
Hmm.
You want
And I
to work together. You want to love and build together. Unfortunately, some
can't,
people struggle. Yeah, and you can't.
because he would have been unhappy, and there was no point if you're forcing someone to go somewhere where they don't want to go, because even if at that point he still was trying to figure out where he wanted to go at that point,
Yeah,
it becomes a resentment kind of thing. If someone, you have it trying to kind of figure it out, and there's a resentment on both sides, a resenting
right.
on his side because maybe that's not his path, and maybe it's mine, and
Yeah,
me because I'm like, well, how come you don't want to go, and how come you don't want to do what I want to do, and not in a controlling way, but you think you're helping, but sometimes you're hindering someone else from their path
right.
by expecting them to go on to yours, and you just have to be, if you love somebody, you absolutely let them chart their own path, whether it's with you or without you.
Yeah. That's good advice. And I was actually my last thing. I'm gonna ask you, what advice would you give to those who are out there who are struggling in their relationships, struggling in their marriages, and they're contemplating divorce right now? What would you say?
Uh, oh boy, so many things. But instead of focusing on the bad, and it's easy to do that, focus on the love that you have for that person.
Mhm.
And what's really, honestly, don't listen to anybody else around you. Don't listen to your parents. Listen to what was going on between the two of your friends, anybody, coworkers, nothing. Listen to what's going on between both of you. Listen to God and yourself.
Yeah.
What is it? Is it something that you can work out? If it is, absolutely do that, and do it in love. Don't do it in anger. Don't do it because you're forcing someone to do something. And if you know you love that person and them being with you does not make them happy, and vice versa, you have to make a decision. That's the only way. You have to do it in love and not in anger.
Do it in love. I love it.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you so much, Doris, for joining me on today. I so
You.
appreciate you for just being able to be open and transparent. And so we're turning pain into power around here. Thank you all. You all have a good night.